I've really tackled in the last over a year. So this is fun. I've been looking forward to this. We're going to talk about gaming and the reasons for a particular game. So to my Twitch audience out there, all three of you, finally something that's right up your alley. The rest of you guys just hang on, you'll get it. Okay, so you've seen virtual reality thing, like the people with the big helmets, right? I'm talking to my older audience now. It's a big helmet you put on, and then you stand in a room and go like this, where you're playing a game, right? There's a new game out that we're going to talk about, and you know what? The best way to set this up, I think, is just to show you this little trailer. So watch this, and then we'll come back and we'll talk to one of the creators of this thing who has an amazing resume, which I think you'll find interesting, but then some reasons for doing this particular type of game. This game is called DVG, which stands for David versus Goliath. DVG, Conquering Giants. This is a just released virtual reality game. Check this out. All right, those are some of the visuals from DVG, the game, and the creator, one of the creators of that, is a guy named Jarom Sidwell, and I want to give you a little bit of his resume because you read this and you go, "Dang, this dude's legit, right?" He's not nothing wrong with working in your garage on something for that. He's done a little more than that. He has been a visual effects artist on some movies that you might have heard of: Avatar, The Adventures of Tintin, Man of Steel, the Superman movie, The Hobbit, Transformers, The Avengers. Okay, so we're talking high-level resume here, and Jarom is with me live right now. Jarom, great to have you. All right, so I want to talk about just the game itself, just to give people an idea what this is, because this is pretty cool. But a little bit later, I do want to get into the why. Why? Because I don't think I'm telling you anything you don't know. And forgive me, other people, but Christian-themed video games have a really awful reputation. And you're bringing a level of expertise to it that I really appreciate. So let's talk a little bit about the game. Tell us what they get. They saw some of those pictures, and then half my audience is going, "I don't understand." The other half is going, "Well, that looks pretty cool."
DVG is a virtual reality game. And if you're not familiar with virtual reality, that's, like you said before, you take one of these headsets, put it on, over your eyes, and you become immersed in that world. Think of it as almost if you're taking the TV and wrapping it all the way around your head. So wherever you look, you are in that TV show or in that movie. And so DVG is about the story of David, the young shepherd boy, and you become him. You are living his story. Rather than a passive movie watching it, you are in charge of taking care of your flock. So in the game, your dad comes to you and says, Jesse's like, "David, I need you to watch the sheep. Your brothers are preparing for war, and it's your job to watch the sheep." And so you grab the slingshot or the sling, whichever level of difficulty you want in the game, and he teaches you how to make that work. You get a practice level, and then you're off into the game exploring how to protect your sheep from these wolves that are crawling through the tall grass, trying to nab your sheep and take them off for dinner.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Um, Can we talk about your background? I mean, those are some huge movies. What did you learn there? You know, working on the Avengers or the Hobbit, that you brought into creating this kind of game.
Well, I learned so much, right? I mean, Steven Spielberg, James Cameron, Joss Whedon, the director of, Peter Jackson on The Hobbit. Like, these guys are so smart. They're so talented, and it was an honor to work with them. I think one of my favorite stories was when I was a Hobbit, or in the Hobbit movie, I was an orc. So they called tall, ugly people, and I got the part. And I went to the first step of being a Gundabad orc, which is the elite. They're the nastiest, they're the meanest orcs in the films. And I went and to orc school. So at orc school, we learned all about the characters. We had an expert on Middle Earth, and he came in for 2 weeks, told us all about who the orcs are, how in their cores they are evil. They like to grab things and snatch them. And so as I was fighting elves and dwarves in the movie, I realized, that there's a lot to what goes into a character development to tell that story.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, man, how cool would that be? For the first time ever, I was always working on the digital side of things, but for the first time ever, I got to be a character in one of the films. And when virtual reality started to come out, I was very intrigued by the storytelling aspect of this, because you get to be that character rather than a passive experience of just watching the movie. It's almost like you are the actor in the movie now. And that's what the goal was for creating DBG.
So this is not just, target practice and throwing spears and slingshots and things like that. There's actually a storyline to it.
That's right. Yep. There's a storyline to it. There's, we borrowed from Isaac Asimov's 3 Laws of Robotics and created the 3 Laws of a Good Shepherd. And Jesse, your father, is teaching you to beware of unseen danger lurking in the grass. Every sheep is precious, and go after the lost one.
Mm.
And that the family is your flock, and the flock is your family. And each one of these levels is about one of those values. So that's the really fun part is, as you're playing the game and experiencing it, you're also learning these values that we've actually kind of seen with some families. They've played the game and then they come out of the game and kind of talk about it. And like, well, what do you think Jesse meant when he said the flock is your family or the family is your flock? Like, what does that mean? And it's led to like these great, moral and biblical discussions.
Yeah, and that's interesting because there's a lot of debate in churches for forever since I was a kid about the impact of things like movies and games and music, and it's easy to just condemn things, but yet at the same time, you look at something like Grand Theft Auto, right? It's really hard to just kind of write that off as a harmless video game. It's like, oh, really? What's getting in these kids' heads? That it's fun to do that. It's okay to do that. And, we saw some of the riots last year. It looked like some of those kids thought, hey, this is my time to kind of live the video game. And it's like, reality is not the same. Virtual reality and actual reality are 2 different things. How important, and this it can be tough because making solid values fun is a challenge between the balance of just preaching to somebody where it doesn't feel like a game at all, and yet leading or being subtle but not neglecting the values. How do you balance that?
Yeah, so we partnered with Bill Isler, who is the founder and CEO of Virtuous VR Gaming. And when we embarked on this journey, the thing that I was really adamant about and really wanted to make sure that we did was that we made a game first, and that it wasn't overly that we didn't get too preachy or too involved in the biblical side of things, that we didn't, that it was no longer a game.
Right.
We wanted to make sure that it was a game and fun for all audiences. And so we've seen people that are Christian and non-Christian alike, believer and non-believer, who have jumped into the game and loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been a big win for us, because that's what we wanted it to do, right? And not only is this the great, evangelizing method, right, where you can go and kind of share the story of David and Goliath. In fact, I was just talking to someone the other day that played the game, and they're like, "This is so cool. Where did you get this idea?" And I was like, "Well, the story of David and Goliath is, from the Bible." And they're like, "It is?"
That's awesome.
And so what was really fun about that is it led to like a 5 to 10 minute discussion explaining like the story of David and Goliath and who David grew up to be, and establishing the kingdom and all of that with someone that didn't know. And so when every time we took a step back and looked at the game, we wanted to make sure that it had fun game mechanics, and it's super, super fun. Like you grab your controllers and you pump your hands up and down to walk. You're slinging like this to throw your sling. You're dodging in real life, or using the controllers to dodge the projectiles that are thrown at you. And so it's a very active game, which is also a bonus for those parents who want their kids to be getting a little exercise and stuff. This is a DVGs of one of those really active games. And so that all of those things combined made it that, yes, it's a game first, and just it happens to be about that story of David and Goliath that has these moral issues behind it. And I also should mention that it's rated E for everyone. It doesn't have the Grand Theft Auto violence or themes in there. It's a very wholesome, family friendly game that's based on this awesome biblical story.
Yeah, good question. Good thing. Someone asked that question, so you answered that question. I'm curious about on the film side of things. Was The Hobbit your favorite to work on?
Actually, The Avengers was my favorite.
The Avengers, right?
Yeah. So I got to be. We want things to look real a lot of the times, right? And so I got to go down to the motion capture stage, and one day I would be wearing the suit and be playing Thor.
Oh.
And then the next day, or a week later or 2 weeks later, I would be wearing the suit and be playing Captain America. Nice. And so we would create a digital double for my actions of that superhero. And that was like a dream come true, where I'm like, I'm Captain America today. This is amazing.
That is pretty cool. That is very cool, actually. A lot of people are jealous right about now. Here's why I bring that up, though. As you're doing, whether it's Captain America or an orc, and you start to see the sort of the actor side of things, motivation becomes a real thing. We hear that, it's almost a joke. What's my motivation? An actor will ask, but that's actually it's critical to understanding a role and playing a part, and you learn that in orc training, right? Who would have thought they had such a thing? That's awesome. How does that come into play in your virtual reality games when you get to this idea of even having a motivation for those characters and then implementing it so that the player kind of feels it?
Yeah. So what's really interesting is we went through a number of iterations. As you're building a game, kind of like in a movie, you'll show a rough edit to an audience and get their reaction and be like, oh, okay, this is a little too scary or whatnot. We did the same thing with DVG as we were building it over the last year. We would share it with a number of school children in our demographic, and we got feedback. And what we wanted people to feel was that that they could conquer hard things. I can do hard things, kind of thing. And so as you're going, David becomes a little bit more confident. The wolves are easy to tackle. There's a lot of them, but you can kind of understand how the mechanic goes. And as you're becoming more familiar with the sling and with the mechanics of the game and running and understanding like who that enemy is, you become more confident in yourself, and you become more confident in conquering, these giants. And I think, you brought this up there in the last year. It's kind of been a different year, for everybody. And the great thing about this is, hey, everything in the world is a little bit larger than life. And even though you're the underdog David, you're building that confidence and that, even let's say faith that you can conquer anything.
Yeah, I mean, classic underdog story. It's funny that some people don't recognize it, but literally a metaphor in modern society for the classic underdog, the David versus Goliath kind of thing. Let me get a little bit, by the way, people that just jumped in, this is the website, dvgthegame.com. We're talking to one of the creators. I'm assuming there's a fairly large team. I say creator or creators, one of the creators. Which one's right?
We definitely got a team of people that are doing animations and all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
So David versus Goliath, Conquering Giants, a virtual reality game, so the headset kind of thing. And what is actually your title? I should have looked at this before I started the interview. It didn't jump out at me. Are you like the designer, lead graphics, creator?
I'm the game designer of this game.
You are the designer. Okay.
Kind of like the director would be what it's similar to in film.
Yeah, because everybody relates to that. No, I'm kidding. I'm sarcastic. He's laughing, by the way. So you guys out there, like, lighten up. Here's a question for you, because given your resume, working on all these secular, high-level, really cool projects in the film industry, why would you kind of take this sideways path to go into the virtual reality in a Christian market? Because you could have easily done this with, characters that had nothing to do with the Bible. Why would you choose to do it in a Bible setting?
Well, it's really interesting. One, I think it's really important that families just have something that they can go to and play with, right? Gaming is a big part of people's lives. And it really is like the language of the next generation. And I wanted to build something that spoke to them. I was just talking to someone a few weeks ago that said, hey, I learned about David and Goliath by cutting out some paper and gluing them to popsicle sticks. And I'm David, I'm Goliath. And, kind of going like this.
Guilty. That's me.
Right? And they were like, I feel so blessed that I can get one of these and have my kid learn in a way that engages them and helps them understand and know and start to ask questions about the story, because they're doing it in a language and through a medium that they can really get into and understand and love. And that was the motivation for me is, hey, we need to engage that next generation. We need them to understand and know, their Savior, right? And know the stories and the foundation of that gospel of the Bible. And this is the way to reach them.
Wow, I love it. He's a minister in a unique field, friends. How has the response been? This is what dropped last November 3rd or 20th, something like that? Last November?
Yeah, it's been great. So we got it on Steam VR, and we're working on getting it on Oculus and PlayStation VR. And those will hopefully release in the next couple months, so that anybody with any headset can grab it and play it. And what's really cool about this is this new headset from Oculus is a few $100s. You don't need a gaming computer or anything. You can just grab this, and it's an awesome introduction to the gaming world. It's not hardcore gaming, and what I love about VR is it's kind of like an in-between for gamers, where if you want some good family-friendly content that's kind of fun and active, grab one of these headsets and you'll kind of change the weekends with your family, and the entertainment level will just spike through the roof.
Yeah, well, parents and grandparents out there, you want to be the coolest parent or grandparent in the world, get one of these for your grandkids. For those that have been playing it, have you gotten any good and constructive feedback on it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We've gotten a great feedback where people. One of the things that has been the most enjoyable is I think he's 11 years old, he's been emailing me back and forth and videoing him beating each of the levels.
Nice.
And his dad's been emailing me and being like, "Hey, this is my son. He's doing great." And the dad was saying, he's like, "Look, this is awesome." And it kind of the effect that I was talking about before. He's like, my son will go in and defeat the bear and kind of work through the puzzle of how to do it. He records it, sends it to me, and then he's sharing with other people how to do it. He's like, what's awesome is that the entire time he's playing the shepherd boy, and we're learning about the story of David. And so it just leads to discussion after discussion after discussion. And he's like, I there's no way that would have happened before.
Right.
You know, he's just all of a sudden, he plays it for an hour or two and then comes and like, "Hey, Dad, did David really fight a bear?" And then he's like, looks it up and he's like, "Well, yes, it says, David, before he runs into Goliath, says, I defeated a lion and a bear, and you'll be delivered into my hands too." And, it's just been so exciting to see that, along with the gamers too. I've just been like, "Hey, this is pretty fun." Like the sling mechanic is unique. I've never experienced that before in a game. They've compared it to Mike Tyson's Punch Out. Some of the audience will remember that, but it's those boss battles where you're studying your enemy, you're learning their moves, and then it's just a matter of executing on them to beat them. And so people have been giving us some great feedback, which is awesome to hear.
Yeah, no, yeah, it sounds like you're winning on both accounts, because you got to win on the gaming front to get the message out there. So that's really cool. Is this? You mentioned that you're working on the PlayStation and on the Oculus versions. Is there anything else in the hopper? Because I'm thinking, I don't know where would you go in the Bible? There's a lot of directions you could go, but where would you go next? Do you have anything on the horizon?
Well, Bill and I are still talking about what's next, after we get on these platforms. But there's a lot of recommendations, and I mean, the Bible's, the greatest story ever told, right? So
what's one of the good ideas you think that you've kicked around?
I am really intrigued by the story of Samson.
Mm.
It's almost the opposite of David, right? David was that little underdog, and Samson is the powerful one. So what does that look like to be given this power by God, and how do you use that for good to fulfill your mission that God's given you? And I think that's a pretty interesting one that we could explore with some multiplayer functionality.
Yeah. What's perhaps the worst idea you've heard?
I think doing a Jonah game where you're underwater, away from a whale in virtual reality, just sounds like that would.
It would be fun to have the reaction of all the people when you get spit up on the beach out of a whale. Okay, I can't let you go without talking about is this the parent company or the Immersive History? I want to show people the website here, because this is tied in with what you're doing.
Yeah, so my company is Immersive History, and Virtuous VR Gaming connected to make DVG, okay. Right? So you can find a lot of information on dvgthegame.com. And we're still working on a website. We've been busy making the game. Yeah. But our goal in Immersive History is to bring the past to life, primarily focused around the stories of the Bible. So we're working on a Bible app that has augmented reality and virtual reality, and puzzles and coloring books and mini games, all inside of a mobile app that does the same functionality as DVG, David versus Goliath, right? That it is a hub where you can go and explore all these activities centered around the Bible that will connect with that next generation. You need a quick lesson for the family or Sunday school. You can pull up some stuff for augmented reality and interact with the kids as they're seeing, the Ark of the Covenant on the table open up and what's inside, and all sorts of stuff. So using the latest technology to share, the message.
Yeah, and so I know some people are writing. Some people my age right now are going, "Oh, well, that's cute. That's nice." But I think this is not just, Jarom is not just someone doing something kind of cool. As he alluded to earlier, this is where your kids are. This is where, you know, my grandkids will be someday. This is a viable means of ministry, of education. Just the visual aspect of some of the immersive history, where you see the temple, you know, you see where Jesus walked without having to go take a tour of Israel. This is the kind of thing that we have to jump on board. And I know you've got a lot of partners there. I'm working with you. How much of this is ministry driven versus, you know, hey, there's a market that we think is underserved, or, you know, this is kind of cool, so we want to do it. Talk about the motivation of what you guys are doing.
Well, you know what's I think to understand is you kind of have to understand what drove me into this. So I'll share a quick story if I may.
Please.
I was in a Bible study course, and we were talking about Jesus cleansing the temple. You know that story, right? And this was by someone who was really knowledgeable. And so I was sitting in there, and he was telling us stuff that I'd never heard before, and it was really connecting. And of course, with my visual background, I started to build this world around me, right? Where I'm like, okay, there's the royal stoa, and here's the market stalls, and, you know, here's some priests bringing the sheep back, you know, and maybe skimming some stuff off the top. And I was like, this makes sense all of a sudden, where that's why Jesus cleansed the temple, you know? And I was riveted, and I was way into it. And I looked around the room, and everybody had zoned out, and he'd lost them. And I was like, what happened? Why is no one paying attention? And right then I got this inner voice that said, Jarom, you've built worlds for James Cameron, and you've built digital worlds for Steven Spielberg. Build this world for me. And that drove me down the path of, I was like, God, I don't know what you mean.
Wow, that's awesome.
But I connected with archaeologists. I connected with you know, professors. We got, you know, Messianic Jews on board, and just started to gather what all the measurements of ancient Jerusalem was, what that looked like, and I built it in virtual reality. 3D model, put it in virtual reality, and that's actually what connected us with Bill. Bill, you know, looked at it, got him in the headset, and he looked at it and was like, "This is amazing! I can walk anywhere through the ancient city." See what it is, click on things, interact with it, learn about it. He's like, what would you do next? And I was like, well, the next thing is, you know, it's targeting that, you know, 6 to 18 range of kids, and how do we get them involved? And that's what led to, you know, telling it one of those individual stories, which was, you know, David versus Goliath. So
if someone wants to do the virtual tour, see that kind of stuff, is that on immersivehistory.com? Is that where they get it, or is there someplace else?
Yeah, you can do that in the mobile app, and I'm working with Bill and Virtuous VR Gaming to create some stuff that you can't talk about quite yet. But we'll be getting that same thing here, hopefully later this year.
Yeah, so. and in 2022, I want to see the entire Book of Revelation in VR. So.
That one you want to sit down for sure.
yeah, definitely. Is there? I'm going to put the website up here for the David versus Goliath, the game, dvgthegame.com. Is there anything else that you're doing that we didn't talk about, or that you want to say before I let you go? Because this is really cool. It's been fun, by the way.
No, I think everyone go to dvgthegame.com. There's a FAQ there about David and Goliath, about VR, some other family-friendly games that are there. I just recommend grabbing one of these headsets. If you've got kids in that 6 to 16, 18 range, they're still at home. You know, the Immersive Bible app that we've created, or DVG, is a great way to engage that next generation, and that's really what we're shooting to do is speak to them in their language and have fun along the way.
Awesome, man. Jarom, thanks for what you're doing. Seriously, and everybody on your team, tell them that those of us out here and the rest of the world really appreciate what you're doing. So, and thanks for taking the time to share that with our audience today.
Yeah, it was real fun. Thank you.
Hey, this is one you can share with your kids, with your grandkids, or your friends if you're watching in that age range. So check out the game, dvgthegame.com. If you've got the right headset, you can check out the specs are on the website. And if you want to be the ultimate parent or grandparent, get your kids one of these. Get them a headset with the game. There you go. You will light them up. So you got 10 months until Christmas. You start saving now, and probably got birthdays and stuff, or you just do it. So be the cool parent. Thanks for hanging out with us on this Friday. This is too cool. This has been fun. More great guests next week. No more virtual gaming. This is a Jarom thing only. We'll have to check back with him maybe later in the year when they get some new stuff coming out, because this is something I do want to follow. So anyway, share this. If you haven't subscribed or followed our channel, please do it now. Come back next week. We'll be right here with more great guests on LifeToday.live. LifeToday Live. LifeToday TV is the handle. LifeToday.org is the website. I'll get it right. It's been a long week. It's Friday. See you next time.
To make America a better nation. All we say to America, be true to what you said on paper.